What's your name? How old are you? And where are you from?
Bruce Robinson. I'm 68, and I was born and grew up not far from Nashville.
Okay, great. And how did you become an Elvis fan?
Probably like a lot of people my age, their parents, especially my mom. My mom loved Elvis. As I've joked with people, she's kind of almost like an Elvis scholar. Read a lot of books and was a big Elvis fan. So it just came naturally, I guess you would say.
Yeah. So, what did growing up with Elvis look like for you?
Uh, my mother played a lot of records. I can't say that she was a huge fan of his movies,
Mhm.
but of course she loved his music. And I remember when he did what was it? The live feed from Hawaii,
The Aloha special?
the Aloha special. That was like the event of all events.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that on like some huge console television that was huge with a turntable and all that. I remember the day he died like yesterday because I was packing to go to college, returned to college, and my mom walked out and said that he had died. And like many, I thought, nah, that can't, because I didn't know really what kind of physical shape he was in.
Mhm.
So much, even being in Tennessee, you would just hear he's been admitted to the hospital for exhaustion. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's probably right. He works hard with all these concerts. So,
Yeah. So, how did your mom take that, being as big of a fan as she was?
oh, it was really tough on her. She probably, for the next 30 years, she read two or three Elvis books per year.
Oh.
And actually a lot on Priscilla.
So, did your mom ever get the chance, and you as well, get the chance to go to Graceland?
Yes. My mom went a couple of times. My wife and I went to Graceland when we were there. It was super, super hot,
Yeah.
about St. Louis hot,
Mhm.
really good, and it was a terrible thunderstorm.
Yeah. So it must have been a big event for your mom to go there for the first time, being such.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 And she was a big fan of Priscilla too. She read a lot about Priscilla. I thought many times, what she would think about Lisa Marie dying. And
Mhm.
uh yeah, I mean, she would be really disturbed by it all.
Yeah. So you say you lived in a condo complex with the producer at Stax.
Yes.
So first of all, who was the producer, and what kind of stories did they tell you about Elvis at Stax?
David Porter
Oh,
was the
wow, that's like a big person. That's like a
I
yeah.
I really like David Porter. He and I became I wouldn't say friends, but kind of acquaintances.
Mhm.
It took me one Sunday night down to his new studio called Memphis Made. I'd
Mhm.
never been in a studio before. It was brand new. And we went down, and he was on the boards, and he played a lot of music for me. And he just said that he really liked Memphis, or liked Elvis, that it was really sad what happened, and that he used the adjective that a lot of people use, a sweet man, a beautiful man.
Mhm.
That he was, even with all of his success, he was still very humble. So yeah, David Porter, he was. I went to one of his a party that he had for his birthday party, and he and I talked a lot about music and other things. So yeah, I mean, they're in the DNA too, but
Mhm.
not as much. I mean, yeah, Stax is in the DNA, but I mean, Elvis is really, I worked in healthcare, so I would go by the hospital there. You'd see the Elvis Presley Trauma Center and all of that. And but yeah, I mean, there were tons of Elvis stories.
Mhm.
I mean, if you turn on the radio, you heard a lot of Elvis stories, and you had one question in here: what people did not know
Mhm.
about Elvis. Number one, how philanthropic he was.
Yes.
Super, super philanthropic. He gave a lot of money. He was super giving to a lot of people, and you would hear these stories all the time. people who would drop off furniture at his home, around Christmas, and he would, send out a big order of toys to their children
Mm.
later for Christmas. He did this kind of stuff all the time. I used to go by the place where he formerly bought, well, Lincoln's early on, and then Cadillacs, because I hear that he thought the Lincoln guys were charging him too much money for the cars.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I think that's another part of that, him being in the DNA there, but just all the charities that he donated to,
Yeah.
Jude, and he's got his own foundation and all those things, and I think that's a huge part I mean, he gave away almost everything.
Yes, he was, and it's, yeah. I watched the movie a few years ago, the Boz Luhrmann
Mm.
thing, and you saw how much money he was giving away. On the tour with Grayson, Lisa talks a lot about how that every month, all he did was sit down and write checks. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
EA Presley, he's signing his name constantly. But
Yep.
yeah, you don't hear very many people say anything critical about Elvis.
Mm-mm.
Number one, because of his talent, but number two, his philanthropy.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of good things for Memphis.
What has been you've been a fan for a long time, so what has surprised you most on your Elvis journey?
Well, he's one of those things that keeps on giving. He's a gift that keeps on giving.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess on one hand, I'm surprised that there are still people who don't know much about him, and then you meet people who are maybe teens or 20 somethings, and they hear him for the first time, and they're bowled over. They're
Yeah.
like, "This guy's really good." Well, when I was at the Boz Luhrmann movie, there were some girls in front of me, and their mom was there, and they were like, "Is this really the way he was? Is this the way he sounded?" And she's like, "Yeah. In fact, he sounded way better than this." And they're like, "Man, that's really cool." They were blown away.
But my last question is then, now that you've been a fan for a long time, what does being an Elvis fan mean to you today?
Uh, I would say being, appreciating someone who is one of the greatest artists of all times. There's hardly anything that he could not sing. I mean, he just had a God-given talent, and he just kind of, if you will, came out of nowhere. I used to pass by Sun Records every day. That's also an incredible, I love Sun Records. And I would pass there and I would think about when he first went there and, tried out, that's all right, Mama. And I'm thinking to myself, wonder what people thought.
Mm.
But, when he cut this record for Sam Phillips, Sam Phillips is also a genius. I mean,
Yeah.
he's absolute genius. That's another thing I came to appreciate living in Memphis. But just being connected and appreciating an artist with such a wide range of talent. You
Hmm.
know, he was kind of like a shooting star, very bright, and died way, way too soon.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Well, thank you so much, Bruce, for talking to me today.
Absolutely, Diane. It's been a pleasure.